Judge Amy Coney Barrett tries to humiliate Keanu Reeves, then realizes he's a constitutional genius. You're sitting in first class, minding your own business, when suddenly the most insane confrontation breaks out right in front of you. But this isn't just any confrontation. This involves Keanu Reeves, a Supreme Court justice, and the most shocking twist ending you'll never see coming. It all started on United Flight 447 from LAX to DC. Keanu Reeves was quietly reading in seat 2A, and I mean quietly, because that's just how Keanu rolls, right? Meanwhile, in seat 1C, Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett was reviewing legal briefs for an upcoming case. But here's where it gets crazy. A flight attendant approached Justice Barrett with obvious excitement. "Your Honor, we're so honored to have you aboard. Is there anything special we can do for you today?" Barrett glanced around first class, and her eyes landed on Keanu, who was wearing his signature casual hoodie and jeans. She didn't recognize him. She just saw what looked like an ordinary passenger in premium seating. "Actually," Barrett said loud enough for nearby passengers to hear, "I'm curious how that young man in the hoodie can afford first class. Shouldn't working class seats be in economy where they belong?" The entire cabin went silent. Passengers started pulling out their phones because they knew something was about to go down. But Keanu? He just looked up from his book, which, plot twist, was a copy of the Federalist Papers, and smiled that gentle Keanu smile. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't catch your name," he said politely. "Justice Amy Coney Barrett, United States Supreme Court," she replied with obvious pride. Now here's where Keanu does what Keanu does best. He stays humble but drops knowledge like you wouldn't believe. "Oh, wonderful. I actually just finished reading your opinion in Tennessee Wine and Spirits. Fascinating interpretation of the Commerce Clause, though I noticed you cited Granholm v. Heald, but didn't address the dormant Commerce Clause implications from Pike v. Bruce Church." Barrett's face went from smug to confused real quick. "I'm sorry, what?" Keanu continued, still casual as ever. "The Pike balancing test, you know, where local benefits are weighed against the burden on interstate commerce? Your concurrence seemed to sidestep that precedent entirely. By now, everyone in first class was recording. The flight attendants had stopped what they were doing. Even the pilots were probably listening through the cockpit door. Barrett was getting flustered. "Young man, I don't think you understand the complexity of constitutional law." "Oh, I might understand more than you think," Keanu interrupted gently. "For instance, your dissent in Department of Homeland Security v. Regents, brilliant application of the Administrative Procedure Act, but I questioned your interpretation of Chevron deference given the court's recent trend toward limiting agency authority. The cabin was so quiet you could hear a pin drop." Who are you?" Barrett stammered. But before Keanu could answer, another passenger, turns out it was Denzel Washington in seat 3B, started slow clapping. "Ma'am," Denzel said, standing up, "that's Keanu Reeves. And he's not just an actor. He's also got a law degree from UCLA that he earned while filming the Matrix trilogy. Never talks about it because, well, he's Keanu Reeves." The revelation hit Barrett like a truck. Her face went from confusion to absolute mortification in about 2.5 seconds. But here's the best part. Instead of being embarrassed or angry, Keanu stood up and extended his hand to Barrett. "Justice Barrett, would you mind if I sat next to you? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the upcoming docket. I've been following your career, and I think your perspective on originalism is fascinating, even when I disagree." Barrett was stunned. Here she had just publicly humiliated this man, made assumptions about his background, his wealth, his intelligence, and his response was to ask for a legal discussion. I owe you an apology," she said, shaking his hand. "I made terrible assumptions." "No harm done," Keanu replied. "We all make snap judgments sometimes. The important thing is what we do next." So for the next 4 hours, passengers watched in amazement as Keanu Reeves and Amy Coney Barrett had the most intense constitutional law discussion ever witnessed at 35,000 feet. They debated originalism versus living constitution theory. They argued about the 10th Amendment. Keanu even sketched out a legal brief on a napkin explaining his position on digital privacy rights. But the real magic happened when they landed. Barrett turned to Keanu and said, "Mr. Reeves, I learned more about constitutional interpretation in the last 4 hours than I have in months of chambers discussions. Thank you for your grace." Keanu's response, pure gold. "Justice Barrett, thank you for reminding me that our first impressions aren't our final verdicts. In law, just like in life, there's always room for appeal." As they were deplaning, Barrett stopped and addressed the passengers who had filmed the initial confrontation. "Folks, I hope you'll delete those videos. What you witnessed wasn't a celebrity takedown. It was a masterclass in how to respond to prejudice with dignity. Mr. Reeves taught me more about justice today than any law book ever could. And that is why Keanu Reeves isn't just Hollywood royalty, he's actual royalty as a human being. The flight attendants later said it was the most educational flight they'd ever worked. Denzel Washington called it better than any courtroom drama, and Justice Barrett. She personally invited Keanu to observe oral arguments at the Supreme Court. But the most insane part, when they got to baggage claim, Keanu helped Barrett with her luggage, and she helped him with his. Two people who started the flight as strangers ended it as intellectual equals and, dare I say it, friends. The moral of the story? Never judge a book by its cover, especially when that book happens to be a constitutional law expert disguised as the most humble A-lister in Hollywood. And that, my friends, is why Keanu Reeves continues to be the internet's boyfriend and America's most beloved celebrity. What did you think of this story? Could you have handled public humiliation with that much grace? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more incredible stories about celebrities who restore your faith in humanity.